Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity. Stop the New World Order. Welcome to Panwo TV. And welcome to this, the latest instalment in my series of films, UFO Disclosure 2015. Oh, well, I've got this. It is a bottle of champagne. Well, it's not actually. It costs $6.99 from a corner shop. And it's a magnum of Charlemagne Poire Moussa Superior Demi-Sec. It's 5.5% by volume. No, I am an ex-hospital porter. I can't afford champagne. This is actually, it's actually perry. It's like pear cider, but it's made to look like champagne. I think it's a bit of a con actually, because that word Charlemagne looks like the word champagne, and you have to read it to know the difference. It's in the same sort of like copper plate writing kind of thing. So a bit of a swizz, I reckon. But I chose it knowing what it was, because I brought it for a particular reason. All right, and it's what I'm going to do is I've got this little letter here. You see, this little notice here, to be opened on the day of disclosure, and there's my little picture of a UFO there, and a little picture of an alien, little grey. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not the world's best artist. All right, I'm no Neil Haig. That's about the best I can do. But anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the camera angle slightly so you can see better. Hang on. So I don't think you can see me so well. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to stick this on here. Okay, so I've got some sellotape there. Can you see that all right? Yeah, you can. Okay. I'm just going to put some sellotape on there to stick it on. That notice is stuck on there. I'm not going to touch this now because it's in its notice. Whoops. And so there we are. That's my bottle of Charlemagne there, to be opened on the day of disclosure. And I'm going to put this in a plastic bag, just keep the dust off it. And it's a bit dusty under. It's a bit dusty because I'm going to store it under my bed. So there it is in its plastic bag. So there I see. To be opened on the day of disclosure. That's so I can celebrate disclosure when it happens. I know I used to say if, but I'm saying when. Put the camera angle back to where it was. Yeah, I'm gonna. That's. I'm pretty confident disclosure will happen. What form it will take, I don't know. All right, it's going to happen one way or another. I mean, I don't think it's going to be anything that's been predicted yet. I don't think it's going to be anything like that. It might be, but like I said, I doubt it, as I said in previous films. But I feel confident that it's going to happen one way or another in some form. We're going to have disclosure. I don't think it's going to be willing disclosure from the government, but it's going to be, I don't know. I don't know. I just got a feeling. And that bottle is there so I can celebrate when it happens. What I'll do is I'll keep that under my bed. Ideally, I'd like to keep it in the fridge so it's nice and chilled. But well, things in my fridge tend to vanish, regardless of who owns them. They tend to get consumed. So if I leave that in my fridge, some of the bugger will drink it. So it's good under my bed. So on the day of disclosure, if and when it happens, as I said, when, not if, I'll drink it, and I'll feel myself drinking it. I'll pop it open, get a glass out and celebrate with my sparkling $6.99 pear cider fake champagne. And then I'll film it and I'll upload it to YouTube. That's assuming YouTube will actually be working on that day, because it's quite possible that the internet will actually be down on the day disclosure happens. Like I said, I don't think disclosure is going to be what people at Bassett think it's going to be. It may well be a quite turbulent and quite disturbing experience. But I should make the best of it. And well, I mean, I think to myself, regardless of what happens in the world, we can celebrate it, because nothing will be worse than non-disclosure. right? No matter what happens as a result of disclosure, things carrying on the way they are is definitely the worst outcome possible. I was going to say, if we don't get disclosure of whatever form or another in my lifetime, then my grandchildren can drink this or something. If I haven't got any yet, but if I get any, they can drink it. But I think if we don't have disclosure of one form or another, they won't be alive, because no one will. Okay, I'm going to start with some very sad news. I'm afraid to inform you that Daniela has died. She's the editor of Revista UFO magazine, which is a very, very significant UFO magazine in Brazil. And she was killed in a car accident a few days ago at the age of just 28. Daniela, she had a boyfriend who was in the car with her, and he died too. It was all very sudden. All I can say is rest in peace, and very, very sorry. She did a lot of good work from what I heard. She wasn't well known internationally, but she was very big on the scene in Brazil. And condolences to all her family, and that includes AJ Javard, who is a very well-known Brazilian ufologist. AJ is due to speak at the UFO Truth magazine conference later in the year. I mean, whether he does or not, I don't know. I mean, obviously, my thoughts go out to him and to all the rest of Daniela's family. Condolences to them, and rest in peace, Daniela. Okay, it's those slides again. There are slides. Yes, what's been happening with them? Now, you might think things have gone a bit quiet for now, because there's a lot of planning going on behind the scenes, of course, for the big day on May the 5th, when I will probably be opening my bottle of cheap pear cider, or maybe not. I don't know, but still, we'll see what happens. But there's been some response, some feedback from the UFO community. Some of it's been positive, some of it's been negative, and some people are quite cynical about the whole thing. Several have made the same points that I have. Why don't they just publish them now? Others have been quite supportive of Tom Carey's idea that we should have a big launch on May the 5th. Now, Steve Bassett is one of those, and when I interviewed him on my radio show, link in the description box, he actually did defend Tom Carey's action, and we had a bit of a debate about that. Anyway, several other people have spoken out. Philip Mantle has spoken out about this, and he's been rather negative and cynical, I must say, about this issue. Now, another guy who's spoken out is this fella, Kevin Randall. Now, Kevin Randall has written an article on the UFO Chronicles website where he talks about a bit of his history when he's been involved in this project. Now, he said that it begins in July of 2011. He, Tom Carey, and Don Schmidt basically got together at the Roswell Festival, and they agreed to write a new book about Roswell. And Kevin was keen when he first heard about these slides. Dr. Kevin Randall, he's a researcher into Roswell. He wanted his book to stand out from all the others that have been written about this, and he was very, very keen that there be some information about Roswell, about these slides in the book. So he ran that past Tom Carey and Don Schmidt, and they were very, very cagey about it. They didn't give him enough information, and he felt a bit annoyed about this. And he managed to do some research of his own, and he found out a little bit about the background to the slides, about how they had actually emerged. And the story is actually that I talked before in the previous film about Bernard and Hilda Ray, and about the fact that they had actually obtained the slides from somewhere. No one knows exactly where, but this was a well-connected couple. They moved in elite circles, obviously, as I explained in the previous film, and they were keen photographers. And these slides had somehow got into their possession, or at least they were found in a box with these other slides. But Kevin Randall raises some legitimate points here, and one of those is that in this article he writes, this can be found on the UFO Chronicles website, ufochronicles.com. The points he raises are that there's a little bit of the background to the slides. Tom and Don are not saying much. The story they've given doesn't make sense in
in Kevin's view. He says that what happened was Hilda Ray was the last own person who knew about the slides. Hilda Ray died in 1998, and 10 years later, in 1998, her house was cleared out by the sister of Adam Dew, the man who supposedly owns the Roswell slides now. And he said no one knows who owned the house between 1998 and 1988 and 1998. And there's no information at all about how Hilda Ray managed to get hold of these slides. This is a bit of a tricky situation. So Kevin Randall is very, very skeptical about this. It's all, and to be honest, he's got a point. There is nothing really to connect. Firstly, to connect these two alien slides to the rays, nor to connect those slides to the photo collection that they had. We don't know how these slides ended up in their possession, or even if these slides were in their possession, or whether someone else put them there, because the slides weren't in with the others. The alien slides weren't in with the other non-alien slides. They were in an envelope shoved into the box that were found underneath, sort of tucked underneath. When the box got a bit wet and it started to get a bit mushy, so they took the slides out, and these were in a separate envelope tucked underneath. Kevin Randall is also a bit doubtful about how he says civilians like Bernard and Hilda Ray would have been able to get hold of these slides. He's very doubtful about that, and that's a point I'm going to come back to. I mean, I'm not sure that's actually an issue, but I'll come back to that. Now, Robert Hastings has also said a few words, and what he has decided to call this issue is the Roswell slides, the time bomb. Tick, tick, tick. 58 days, 7 hours, 26 minutes. So it's a countdown, but it's not a countdown to something good. It's a countdown to an explosion. And here's what he has to say. The impending fiasco involving the May the 5th unveiling of these so-called Roswell slides is moving forward unimpeded. It seems, despite harsh and justifiable criticism from a leading Roswell researcher, Dr. Kevin Randall, who notes that the promoters of the slides, Tom Carey, Don Schmidt and Jaime Maussan, have made numerous unsubstantiated and highly misleading claims about them. Randall's commentary is here. For those who have come in late to this controversy, a cache of somewhat 400 colour photographic slides taken in the late 1940s, allegedly by then married couple Bernard and Hilda Ray, were discovered several years ago. When, where and by whom is still uncertain, because the story keeps changing and the key individuals remain unidentified. But cutting to the chase, two of those slides show a small, thin body in a display case, an illegible placard at its feet, and the legs of an unidentified woman wearing a civilian dress visible in the background. The slide's promoters would have us believe that the diminutive figure in the glass case is the corpse of one of the aliens allegedly removed from the crashed UFO near Roswell, New Mexico in July 1947. Consequently, they claim, the images are of revolutionary importance. Indeed, one member of the group, Tom Carey, has gone so far as to say that these two Kodachrome slides are the smoking gun, proving that mankind is not alone in the universe. Of course, the images are nothing of the sort. They are instead problematic artifacts associated with an incomplete and way overhyped research project that is likely to become one of the most embarrassing missteps in the 7-decade-long effort by ufologists to gather and publicise data pointing to the reality of the UFO phenomenon and its probable extraterrestrial nature. On February the 24th, I wrote to Mexican journalist Jaime Maussan, who will host the May the 5th unveiling in Mexico City, saying, "In my view, the sign on the shelf next to the body is the key. Is there no decipherable writing on it in the original slide? If not, that image, not a copy, should be sent to at least half a dozen experts so that they might try to make it text legible. Has this already been done? If so, please elaborate. I have not read any commentary by any expert to date regarding the sign." I then asked Maussan whether he thought that Carey and Schmidt had really done sufficient due diligence on the matter. I copied Tom Carey on the message the next day, and obviously annoyed Carey responded to me and agreed that the placard holds the key to identify the body. adding that he and Don Schmidt had been trying to find someone to read the sign using various filters and techniques. Despite that, said Kerry, not a single word had been deciphered on the placard thus far. Yet he mentioned that David Rudiak, the other and other unnamed persons, had attempted to solve the puzzle. Years earlier, Rudiak had analysed a photograph of US Army Air Force General Roger Ramey, who was photographed on the 8th of July 1947 squatting next to the weather balloon wreckage. In Ramey's hand was a Western Union telegram that seemed partly legible when blown up in size. Unfortunately, magnifying that small portion of the photo resulted in the type in the message appearing extremely blurry. Rudiak, according to many people, succeeded in deciphering that wording, although Kevin Randall disagrees, yielding, among other items, a reference to the victims of the wreck, presumably the crashed UFO. According to then Major Jesse Marcel, who had participated in the discovery of the mysterious wreckage in New Mexico and subsequently transported some of it to Ramey's office at Carswell Army Airfield in Texas, just before the photo was taken, the General had surreptitiously removed a small quantity of that unique material which had been spread out on the floor and substituted it with debris from a downed weather balloon to help facilitate a cover-up of an actual retrieved craft. In any case, at the present time, Rudiak has apparently been unable to make legible any words on the sign next to the alien body in the display case, although Kerry said that other persons other than Rudiak had also been given the slides to examine. When I asked him to identify those individuals, he didn't respond, nor did he answer my question as to whether Rudiak had used the original slides for his analysis or lower quality copies. This last point is obviously important, given that any text, either faint handwriting or commercial printing, would be somewhat degraded in second-hand duplicates. I then wrote, if your first group of experts was unable to decipher any words on any sign, that only points to the need to expand the scope of the inquiry. I was a professional photographer for 10 years and did scientific photography, among other work, at Northern Illinois University. I later worked as an electron microscopist for 14 years at Philips Semiconductors and routinely employed various image enhancement techniques. I continued, given these qualifications, I can guarantee you that if the sign had writing on it, and why wouldn't it, techniques are currently available to make that text visible. I no longer have access to the required equipment, or I would volunteer to take a crack at solving the puzzle. My point, however, is that perhaps your choice of experts is the problem rather than the availability of the tools to do the work. I concluded, are the original slides going to be made available to the outside world, including highly qualified technicians, immediately after the May the 5th event? If so, I predict immediate progress emanating from some quarter. Of course, the better, more scientific choice would be to make the original slides available to those technicians at this time, not after the fact. That's my idea of due diligence. Given Carey's non-response to my questions and suggestions, I can only assume that he will ignore my advice. That's his prerogative, but when this whole affair blows up in his face after the alien is identified as a human mummy or something, as I will believe eventually will happen, Carey will not be able to honestly claim that he and his associates pursued every available avenue to identify the text on the placard. Regardless, being a persistent person, I will use this opportunity to again strongly suggest to Carey and Schmidt and Masson that additional efforts be made immediately to decipher the writing on the sign, utilising the expertise of still other persons who might have other approaches to the problem. I'm guessing that most people reading this article would agree that my proposal is a valid one, and that Carey's palpable irritation to my earlier questioning of his diligence in pursuing a proper investigation should not be used as an excuse by him or Schmidt or Masson to reject my suggestion out of hand. I think all three of the promoters are sincere in their beliefs, and that the corpse in the Kodachromes is indeed an alien. I certainly do not believe that they are premeditatedly perpetrating a hoax, as a host of UFO debunkers have claimed. I also assume that they want the facts to emerge, whatever those facts turn out to be. But when all is said and done, they have not yet provided anything resembling credible evidence that would confirm that the small body is what they claim it to be. Of course, there are other problems with the whole Roswell slides business, as Kevin Randall has pointed out in the recent blog entry linked it above. He mentioned an apparent lack of provenance for the slides and wrote, regardless, none of what that explains how the rays would have been able to obtain a picture of the creature. We all agree that if there was a crash and alien bodies recovered, it would be highly classified. I can think of no plausible scenario in which civilians, no matter highly connected, would have the opportunity to see the photograph of an alien body, of an alien creature, get out of the room with a camera and film intact. Exactly. The fanciful speculation by those who contend that the rays, if they did indeed know people in high places, would actually be given access to one of the bodies from the crashed Roswell UFO is utter nonsense. Consider these facts. Several ex-US Army Air Force personnel were at the Roswell Army Airfield in July 1947 say to their superiors went to extraordinary lengths to retrieve every last scrap of the shattered UFO. Major Jesse Marcel, the first AAF officer to encounter the debris, in the company of Rancher Mac Brazel, said that General Ramey did indeed replace a small portion of that exotic material with the weather balloon wreckage, so that it could be photographed as part of a public deception. Retired Army Air Force Brigadier General Thomas Dubose said that a high-level cover-up of the Roswell event did occur, and was designed to keep the media away from the AAF recovery teams out of the field. An inquiry by General Accounting Office some 50 years later determined that all records of telephone calls in and out of Roswell Army Airfield around the time of the UFO recovery had inexplicably disappeared. In the 1960s and 70s, US Senator Barry Goldwater, also a US major, also a US Air Force major with top secret clearances, was by his own admission repeatedly rebuffed when he tried to gain access to the dead aliens. In other words, every effort has been made by the US government over decades to keep Roswell a secret. In spite of that, the sly's promoters want us to believe that the rays, because they had friends in high places, were allowed to view or even photograph one of the already autopsied aliens. Anyone who considers this ridiculous scenario to have merit is naive in the extreme and simply does not understand how highly classified need-to-know matters are handled by the military. For credible commentary on the Roswell incident, one might read the revelations of the late US Air Force Brigadier General Arthur E. Exon, who was at Wright Field, Ohio, when cargo aircraft carrying debris from Roswell UFO arrived for analysis by aeronautical engineers. Due to an audio-taped interview with Kevin Randall, Exxon said, "They knew they had something now in their hands. The metal and material were unknown to everybody I talked to. Whatever they found, I've never heard what the analytical results were. A couple of the guys thought it might be Russian, but the overall consensus was that the pieces were from space. Everyone from the White House on down knew what we had found out and not what was in this world. Within 24 hours of our finding, Roswell, was the recovery of a craft from space." General Exxon was later the base commander of Wright Pat. His published comments. I will conclude by predicting, perhaps redundantly, that this affair will end badly for the Roswell slide promoters. If, as I contend, the body of the slides is the mummy of an Inca child or some such, then Carey, Schmidt and Masson will owe the whole world an apology. They should seriously consider returning whatever money they made as a result of their unfortunate, unfounded and misguided claims. Well, I think well, this is a good point actually that Hastings made. Why not let Rudiak see the original slides? I mean, that Schmidt and Carey are keeping this so close to their chest, and they're not letting in people who might be able to prove or disprove, or would be helpful in the scientific analysis of these slides before they decide to put everything out in the public, and therefore submit, to make themselves vulnerable, naked for all to see, and so that if they have cocked up somewhere big time, they're in big trouble. They will not be able to. There'll be nowhere for them to run. Everyone's going to know, and it's going to do terrible damage to the UFO community and and things like that. It really is. So really, this must surely have occurred to. This must surely have occurred to Don and Tom. It must have done. And Hastings is saying, he's quite openly saying, he's not accusing them of perpetrating a hoax. He's not saying that they're like Rick Dyer who faked, and that other guy who faked the Bigfoot. They found a Bigfoot body in their freezer, and they went on live TV and said, "We've got a Bigfoot body," and everyone said, "Oh wow, so can we see the body, please?" And they said, "No, you can't see it." And it turned out to be some fur coat they shoved in there. And when it was all exposed, they just, it's ridiculous. So Don and Tom obviously do believe this is a real alien, in which case they need to get that. They need to nip this. They need to actually get it verified. They claim they've already verified it, but you can't have too much verification, I think, and they should allow people like Dave Rudiak to see it, to try and read the plaque. All the other people who've offered their help, they should allow those people in on the secret. They can sign non-disclosure agreements if they don't like it. They can, to see the original slides. Let them see it. Again, now Hastings brings up the same point as Kevin, that somehow there's no way in which Hilda and Bernard Ray would be able to see these alien bodies or get hold of the photographs of the alien bodies, because there's no way they would be initiated into the secret, because they were not in a position where they could. Now, as I said with Kevin Randall's article, that doesn't quite fit. It doesn't quite fit for several reasons. Okay, when it comes to need to know, you never know who's brought in and who's not. You don't know enough about these people to know for certain they wouldn't have been involved or somehow managed to get hold of these artifacts. Other artifacts have come to light from unusual sources. They haven't necessarily, secrets have leaked out, and they've not leaked out from official sources. They've sometimes leaked out from people who you wouldn't expect. People like Bob Lazar, people like the Victor, the alien interview guy, who I think that's real. I think the alien interview is real. Okay, and it's very, very high connected military personnel. People like Admiral of the Fleet Lord Hill Norton has tried to get information. Now, he was on the committee of NATO. He was chief of the defence force, chief of the defence staff in the UK. He was refused access. So, I think it may be more complicated than what they're saying, and I think both Kevin Randall and Robert Hastings are making a lot of assumptions about who Bernard and Hilda Ray were. And I think we should keep an open mind. We shouldn't necessarily discredit them and say there's no way they could get hold of these slides of aliens without knowing more about where they got those slides and how the slides came into their possession. Again, as Kevin Randall says himself, there's a lot of unknowns here. We don't know how they got hold of these slides. We don't know whether they owned them originally or whether they took them, whether they took the photographs themselves. Okay, they could have been handed by some whistleblower from the military. We don't know. We don't know if they were a member of the breakaway civilization or they knew people in the breakaway civilization. But there's an independent power structure at work here, and we cannot just assume. We cannot just assume too much in this case, I think. So, but again, I do agree with Hastings and Randall, that this question marks, the forest of question marks is growing here. And I just hope that if this is a big cock-up, it is dealt with before May the 5th, when it'll be too late and it's all going to go tits up. I suppose it's only fair to put the other side of the story across, and there is a guy who has been mentioned before, Adam Dew. He's the man who owns the slides. He describes himself as the owner of the Roswell slides. He came into possession of them because he's the sister of the woman who did this clearing out, supposedly, of this house in Sedona, Arizona, which is where Bernard and Hilda Ray lived. It wasn't Midland, Texas. That was a mistake. It was Sedona, Arizona. And he's also, though, he's producing the documentary about this. It's called Kodachrome, and I mentioned the trailer before. He's been involved with Tom and Don and Jaime Maussan, and he's helping to arrange this grand unveiling in Mexico City on May the 5th. So, well, it's a bit of an odd situation, because it was his sister who found this box of 400 slides. The box was coming apart, and as I said, as Kevin Randall was mentioned, the box belonged to Hilda and Bernard Ray, supposedly, but there was this envelope, just these extra slides wrapped up, tucked in underneath the others, not as part of the collection. And she had a look through them, and she thought they were interesting. And as I said in the previous film, they're of interesting historical significance. They show pictures of famous people, things like that. But then, when it came to the aliens, or the supposed aliens, she decided she would have a word with her brother about it, who was in the video production business. And her brother Adam took them to Don Schmidt and Tom Kerry, because they're very famous Roswell researchers. Now he claims, like I said, he tells the other side of the story, Adam Dew. He disputes what Randall and Hastings have said. He said these are true. He has been involved in the project to actually verify them, and he's confident that they are real pictures of aliens. Although, you know, he mentioned something about them being out of focus, which is a bit odd. I mean, because we've been shown what we think is a copy of these, which supposedly are just like an out of focus kind of preview, when the real slides are supposed to be really razor sharp and really in good quality, like the others in the box. That's what I got the impression it's going to be like. I don't know. I mean, are these out of focus, or are they real? Because we're told they're crystal clear. And as Hastings has said, why not let Dave Rudiak try and decipher the writing on the plaque? But anyway, he says the event is justified. Now, he is very, very clear about this. The event, this grand unveiling on May the 5th, is justified in that there is enough there to showcase the slides in this fashion. This is a quote now. There is interesting material there. That is enough supporting material. So there's supporting evidence, he says. And there are enough people willing to go on the record. Now, this is interesting because he says that he was involved with this project, and that Adam Dew, Don Schmidt and Tom Kerry actually did try to get hold of some new Roswell witnesses. He actually took these slides to some people who were witnesses on the base in July of 1947. These were mostly junior enlisted men, because the officers were older and most of them are no longer here. But he spoke to this guy who became a lieutenant originally, who became a lieutenant eventually, and he was like a second lieutenant or something at the time. And he verified that this was what he had seen. He said, that's an alien, looks like an alien. And Dew says, in my mind, Mexico City, wherever, I think the slides will stand on their own no matter where they are presented. Jaime has this vision for this big event, and it sounds exciting to me. It sounds fun and interesting, and it's a big stage. No one in the US would have been able to present a stage like this. In some ways, it gives an international feel. Well, I mean, I can't help wondering if it had been in the US, it would have been a lot more. Maybe in Mexico, for somehow the security issues are easier in Mexico than they would be in the US. I don't know, but that's a speculation on my part. Anyway, Dew says they did shop the project around to Hollywood producers, and he was surprised at the high level of meetings. High-level meetings he managed to obtain. In the end, he did not want the photos to be a part of just another part of an existing UFO program, and he did not want to give up control. This is a way to tell a story my way. And Dew points out that the event in Mexico City is also the quickest way to get the pictures to the public. If they had gone with a TV show, it would have taken months to produce. He also admits that money was a concern. He says that he turned down a reputable magazine that wanted to cover the story because they were not offering any money. So compensation, that's it. There was a major respectable US monthly magazine that wanted to publish the slides years ago, but they weren't offering money, and we wanted to at least find a way to bring a bit of funding to this project. People talk about these substantial packages, and I just roll my eyes and laugh about what people think is the kind of money that's involved in this. This has been a process that has cost me money out of my pocket, and I would certainly like to tell my wife that at least broke even in the worst case scenario. Now, this is an issue actually I want to bring up, because a lot of people say this is all about money, and people have even said this about me for asking for donations from viewers, me myself. It's like this, people, whenever you ask for a penny, people say we want millions of pounds. It's crazy. If we're con men, there's easy ways to do this. There's easy ways. We could sell dodgy double glazing. You know, we could sell used cars that would cover over the rust. He says, anyway, Dew continues, he knows not everyone is going to agree with this decision, and indeed I don't. Well, I partly don't. And he says, if I made a mistake there, I apologise, but again, this is a matter of us being able to tell the story our way. But as of late, Dew is becoming used to people criticising his approach. He says he has been surprised by the name-calling and anger of some people on this topic. Among the criticism, some aren't satisfied with the investigation. He says people are asking for science, but these are photos. There's only so much science you can get out of photos. Well, what about Robert Hastings' suggestion? I mean, if Robert Hastings has been writing to Tom and Don and saying, I'll help you out, and they've turned him down, or they've been cagey, you know, it's a bit worrying. Some people... Alright, some people are saying that this is actually a mummy. Now, Kevin Randall, Robert Hastings, what if this is just some mummy from a museum, an Inca child that was sacrificed hundreds of years ago, and it's a mummy? Alright, this is the issue. Alright, I mean, this is very worrying. Okay, because it does look a bit like that. But Dew says this, to me, it's obviously not the same thing, but maybe it's just me. Well, doesn't he know? So this is a little bit worrying. But anyway, Dew says that speculation does not frustrate him. He says, in a lot of ways, the way people have reacted to these slides of low-res version out there has reinforced my approach that I want to know as much as I can before they go out to the public. Well, I hope he does, anyway. Now, this is all a bit worrying, you know, because he brings up the Ray Santilli hoax as well, and he thinks, is there a comparison? But then he makes the same point that I do. You know, with Santilli, it was ridiculous. I talked about this in the previous film. With Santilli, it was ridiculous. It was a complete fake from beginning to end, and he never produced any of the real film. And with this, it's different. He claims he has the original slides that have been verified. That's the thing. But I mean, it still bothers me, alright, because Dew says this is obviously not the same thing as a mummy, but maybe that's just me. Can't you tell? And Don Schmidt, Tom Carey, Jaime Masson, are they really going? As I said, I'm dubious about this, but would they actually go public if they thought it was a mummy? If it was a mummy of a child? I mean, this is worrying. Okay, maybe Philip Mantle is right to be so cynical. Maybe he's. Because I think what a lot of these guys are doing are protecting. They're trying to protect themselves. As I said, we don't want to sort of like, if we get our hopes up too much and we trumpet from the rooftops this as the ultimate proof of Roswell, and it turns out to be a big hoax, the more we trumpet it and louder we laud it, the worse it's going to be if it turns out to be fake. The worse it's going to make us look stupid. If people are doubtful and dubious, then it'll be a bit better. And this is why, you know, despite, I mean, unfortunately the mainstream media was going to claim that we were all taken in. The mainstream media still claims that every ufologist in the world was taken in by the Santilli film, when we weren't. I mean, I wasn't involved back then, but people were not taken in. Very few people who knew what they were doing said that the Santilli film was real. So, I mean, whatever happens, I think in terms of the mainstream media, it's going to be hard to win, but we can mitigate this issue with at least having a bit of caution, to at least so those who look under the surface will at least see that people behave professionally, people behaved skeptically with a C and not with a K. Now, the latest from the Paradigm Search Group, there's no major breakthroughs that I've been heard of yet. However, there's been a lot of media coverage, and Steve has reported he's been in several magazines. During my latest radio show interview with him, link in the description box, he talked about the various media spots he's had. So it seems like there is favourable media attention related to this, which is quite a surprise. But as I said, there's a limit to what can be covered up in the media. It's possible some kind of breakthrough has been made. He mentions the sad passing of Daniela Javard. Also, Jerry Pippin has died, the radio show host. That's very sad as well, because he was very he did a lot of excellent interviews with people like Timothy Good, Sasha Christie, Stephen Bassett himself. He was very keen on the UFO issue, and he covered it very professionally and very thoroughly. So rest in peace, Jerry Pippin. So the doubts set in. Are the Roswell slides what they seem to be? Now we've got over the initial sort of oh wow situation. Now we've had the feedback from various researchers, but as I said, I'm not sure what to make of this yet. I've said all I need to say on that subject, and we need to move on to another. I will make future updates on this video, on this film series, I think, because there will be more information coming out about this. You can depend on it. Now, another big story, of course, that broke out about the same time, which I've been covering, is the supposed Canadian Roswell, and this supposed UFO crash at Lake Manitoba in Canada. And to see the links in the description box of the previous film, or I go into the background about that. Now, Third Phase of the Moon have of course been covering this, as I explained. There's been a lot of phone calls from various people who have said that all kinds of things are going on out there. There's all kinds of reasons to suspect that all is not as it seems, and that the army in Canada have indeed retrieved an extraterrestrial spacecraft. Now, there's a photo going out. This is an image that was created, a drawing facsimile of a photograph that was put out, which was copyright protected. It's fake, all right? It's fake. As I've explained, I think I might have covered that in the last video, but I thought it was a pile of snow that someone had put up. It was actually photoshopped. Now, this sort of thing does not help. It really doesn't, and that annoys me enormously. So far we have no real reason to think that this is definitely a UFO crash. There's no smoking gun evidence, as Tom and Don would say. At the same time, we're not certain that it wasn't. There's reasons for thinking that it wasn't, and this is an important point, right? Third Phase, they've been slagged off an awful lot for the kind of things they've been doing lately, but they did do the right thing, and they kept investigating in the local area. Now, as I said, there is a limited communication grid in that part of the world. It's remote, it's isolated, it's quite inaccessible, but they did eventually manage to phone up the chief of the Jackhead Indian First Nation reservation, and they spoke to him on the phone. Blake from Third Phase had a little conversation with him, and this chief, he said nothing's going on. He's quite unequivocal. No, it's nothing. There's nothing going on at all. My people have not been detained. The army have not been operating in this area other than part of the exercise. There was no one's seen any UFOs come down. Basically, nothing suspicious at all. And to give Third Phase their dues, they published that interview honestly. So I think people should stop slagging off Third Phase of the Moon. Okay. There's more. There was some more information that came about later on. And that is a lorry driver who maintains that he was stopped by the police, he had his lorry searched in that area, something strange was going on. He stands by that. Lots and lots of other witnesses have stood by that. But the chief of the local tribe says nothing. Says nothing's going on. Nothing to worry about. However, all is not as it might seem. Now, I'm indebted to a friend of mine. I'm not sure you want me to name him, but he's really helped me out here. And if he wants me to name him, I'll name him in a future video. But one of the most interesting elements of this, which was brought up straight away by skeptics, and with a K, of course, and also skeptics with a C within the UFO community who doubted that this was as it seemed, was that the army was due to carry out an exercise in that area at that time, because a website, the page was posted on the website of the Canadian Army on the 17th of February. This is several days before the event took place. All right, so this wasn't something they put up there afterwards to say as a kind of backstory, saying that they were carrying out something called Exercise Arctic Bison. Exercise Arctic Bison will be conducted by the 38th Canadian Brigade Group from the 13th to the 22nd of February along the length of Lake Winnipeg. So we're talking about 110 members of the Canadian Army on snowmobiles from Gimli to Grand Rapids, approximately 40 members remaining in Gimli and the Land Component Command. And the exercise will focus on the achievement of the Arctic Response Company Group full operating capability criteria, specifically focusing on the ability of the ARCG to force, project and sustain itself 300 kilometers from its support base. And it goes on to talk about the various roles that this unit will carry out and why it is being exercised at that time. Okay, so this looks like an open and shut case. We have here a website. We have a web page here, dated, which supposedly shows that the army was going to be in the area anyway. So why? What's the problem? Why are they going on about UFO crashes now and the army being there to respond to a UFO crash? Okay, seems very plausible on the surface. However, this is the interesting bit. My friend has found out that that basically this page was updated. Okay, it was updated on the 24th of February. That is after this event took place, after this supposed UFO crash took place. Now, when I say updated, you might think, well, they corrected a few spelling mistakes, things like that. Possibly, but updates can mean really anything. Really, updates can mean a complete rewrite of the page. It could mean that they completely changed everything about it. They changed when they were going to do it, all the text on there. Basically, anything you can change with HTML, they could have just gone over it and put something else in. So that we don't know. I mean, the web page could have said something entirely different beforehand, and somebody changed it to make it look like, well, this is something you would predict. They go and respond to UFO crash retrieval. People start asking, well, what is the army doing in that area? So then they say, people start going online looking for references to, and they'll soon find, well, let's just put up a web page saying we were going to do an exercise there anyway. Use an old web page and update it so we have the dating correct. So it's not conclusive, but it's something we should look into, and it doesn't make the case against the UFO crash retrieval. It doesn't make that case against it any stronger. I think it doesn't make it cut and dry. It doesn't make it 100% true. It doesn't mean we can say conclusively there was no UFO crash at that time. Doesn't mean that. Now, this is an official NASA photograph of the planet Ceres, and Ceres is a planet that is currently under investigation by the NASA Dawn spacecraft. This spacecraft is currently heading towards the planet, where it hopes to go into orbit and take more photographs of it. Now, this is a moon-like planet in the asteroid belt, which has not been investigated closely before. And as this spacecraft approached, as you can see, there are a couple of lights on there, two little bright lights. Now, this is a bit of a mystery what these are. Now, this could be sunlight reflected off something, in which case what? Solar panels? This could be, I think what NASA are saying is it could be ice. There could be ice on the planet or something, some kind of reflective crystal. Who knows? But this could be something else. This could be something artificial, either extraterrestrial or not. Maybe some kind of secret base. In which case, I think NASA are going to be a bit more careful about airbrushing out photographs before they publish them next time they do so. And it's also just been revealed that some of the moons of some of the planets have water on them, or water underneath the icy crust. So it's like there's a lot sort of being hinted at by NASA, and they would be given mixed messages. Maybe they're sort of like planning something. Don't be surprised if in the next couple of days you see some rather obscene language coming from me on the Hapanwo Voice blog. And that is because of a program that's going to be broadcast called The Great UFO Conspiracy. And that's going to be broadcast on tomorrow evening, Saturday the 19th, Saturday the 14th of March at 9:05 PM on Mort 4. Now, I expected it to have the title of something like The Wacky World of Flying Saucers. The Great UFO Conspiracy is equally contemptible, but it's slightly more subtle. Anyway, this upcoming documentary is made by Plum Pictures, which is a company which describes itself as a producer of award-winning television. Now, I haven't seen the program yet, nobody has, so you might wonder why I'm being so cynical and pessimistic about it. And well, there's a couple of reasons. Firstly, the aforementioned title. The presenter and or narrator of the show is the comedian Dan Schreiber, who's best known for co-hosting the skeptic themed comedy TV quiz QI, and his Twitter banner is a still from the Santilli film, and that's not a good start. And he's also done an interview on Channel 4 Press talking about how he thinks crop circles are rubbish and things like that. Now, his name Schreiber is German, actually. It means a writer, as in someone who tells stories. Anyway, as you know, like if you watch my Bases at the Barge report, my reportage on that event, you'll know that a unit from Plum Pictures attended and shot some footage for their programme. Now, there were 5 or 6 of these guys, polite, well-spoken, young Canadian guys, the director, and we had a pleasant conversation. And I explained how we were all very wary because of that Off-the-Fence Productions train wreck, as Miles calls it, Confessions of an Alien Abductee. And he said, I understand, I really do. I want to make an informative and balanced documentary about the people involved in UFOs. I didn't say any more. Anyway, the conference began, and as you know, the film crew circulated around unobtrusively. They were filming just casually in the function room, in and out, you know, in the beer garden. Then you're just panning around generally, and then Jeff Scott came on stage, and he displayed the slide he'd used at Amash. Now, you go to my Bases at the Barge reportage. I had to talk all about that. It's on my video list. And he pointed to this cutaway diagram of the human abdomen, and he pointed at the rectum. This was what the slides showed, a cutaway diagram of the human abdomen. He pointed at the rectum and he said, this is where the aliens insert the implants. And it was as if an alarm bell went off. The Plum Pictures teams, they leapt into action. Into the auditorium they went. The girl with the big camera, the bloke with the sound boom, the director, they all fell over themselves in their urgency to capture a poor Jeff standing on the stage with that slide on the screen, pointing and saying, this is the rectum and this is where the aliens put in the implants. Of course. And that's when I knew exactly what type of TV program this was going to be. And I went straight up to them and I said, as I explained, that I informed them that I am refusing permission for Plum Pictures to use my image anywhere on their production. Not even a wide-angle cameo of the back of my head. Not even my voice on the soundtrack. And I caught them red-handed in my video, as you can see if you watch it. My reportage on Bases at the Barge. Now, some of my friends did agree to be involved. Miles Johnston, he invited Plum Pictures to actually attend the Bases at the Barge event and feature the Bases project in their show. Tony Topping, he took part as well. You can see him in this picture here, in the poster for the programme. He's the guy with the hat. Now, I think both of them mean well, but they're making a big mistake, and I've told them so. And I'm quite surprised, because both of these guys have already had a previous bad experience of being crucified on the TV pillory. They seem to believe, though, that they can make a difference by allowing themselves to be used in these public disinformation hatchet jobs. And I totally disagree. If my advice to any of you, if you were approached by the mainstream media and asked to take part in a TV show or something like that, and you are in the UFO, conspiratorial and paranormal community, my advice is very simple. Don't. Do not. Say no. I've been in that position myself several times and I'm very relieved. I was hoping this thing that Plum had made had been cancelled, because it was over a year ago now that they started. It was almost a year ago that they were at the Barge, but no such luck. But I intend to review it, as I do like to review. I like to write these scathing reviews of lousy TV programmes, and very luckily my reviews tend to rise to the top of Google, which means if you search for the programme on Google you'll find my review of it. So I look forward to eviscerating the great UFO conspiracy and scattering its dismembered entrails all over the internet, unless I'm completely wrong. Okay, maybe I've misjudged them. I've not seen the programme yet, as I said. It could be they've actually made a good programme about UFOs and alien contact, in which case I shall publicly eat my hat with garlic mayonnaise. Right, well, I'm going to go through some of your comments that you left me on the last UFO Disclosure 2015 video. Again, thank you very much for everyone who's commented on the video. It's very much appreciated. So, where should we start?
Takeshi Yamada has said, "Are we really alone in the universe? For the newest information on UFOs, UFO cults, extraterrestrial life, visit the website of UFO Research Institute in Brooklyn." Thanks, Takeshi. I really think that's a good idea. I mean, I like to encourage people to get involved in this subject. Oya 1100, thanks for sharing, and 7776, much appreciated. Now, Inanna Whimsy has said, "And that's the awesome thing about the internet and messianic capitalism. People are able to do what they love, find something that people value, and give it to them, and even get paid for it. Looking forward to the new economy that is happening completely naturally, where algorithms do most of human labour, because if they do it more efficiently and safely, freeing humans to do what they do. No wonder the states and movers and shakers have been busy trying to figure out how to deal with this amazing change. I'm glad that you seem to have found a comfortable place on the net and are willing to share it with potential friends." Another name for stranger. Well, thanks, Inanna, and I like the sacred cow in your cheat CHAO from Robert Anton Wilson in your avatar. Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting thing. I mean, it depends. I mean, the movers and shakers are I don't think at the moment they seem that like they're desperately trying to stop the situation where they might have to deal with this amazing change. I mean, the amazing change that's coming is something they're trying to avoid desperately. Really are badly. So I'm not sure exactly what. I'm not sure exactly how we're going to get through this, but like I said, it's something that we're working on. All right, it's something that this is why I'm doing these videos. Hunley says, set up a Patreon account, and people will be able to support you through that. As always, a great video. Keep up the good work. Thanks, Hunley. I was going to put this in at the end, but thanks for bringing this up, Hunley, and I appreciate you like these videos. Patreon account's not a good idea, but if you can spare me any small change you might have. It does cost money to produce these videos, as I've explained in previous productions. If you go to the Hapanwo TV blog, that's hapanwo-tv.blogspot.com. It's on my Google page. On the bottom of the right-hand column, there is a donate button to my PayPal account, so you can just put something in there. All right. I know people are gonna. I know what some people are gonna say about this. I don't care. All right. The only people who criticise others for this are people who don't know. The Bill 9999. Well done, Ben. I must listen to your radio show. By all means, link in the description box, Bill. My interview with Stephen Bassett, my latest one. 7776. Shared it twice. Oh, thanks. He shared it again. Another blonde. Hey, how you doing, another blonde? I met up with another blonde actually. She lives near me. We had a nice time. We sort of socialised a bit. Thanks, B. As always, enjoy and appreciate your interpretation of world and local events. You're very welcome, another blonde. Thanks for watching. Ludacris has bought the Montauk Chronicles. Good. Hope you enjoy that. I hope you enjoy that video, Ludacris. I mean, I'm still waiting for my DVD to arrive. It's got to come from the United States, but you can watch it as a stream while you're waiting. They give you a code to watch it. AJU4333, Gordo, idiot. Now, I had to. My girlfriend Sue, she speaks Spanish, and she told me what Gordo means. It actually means fat bastard. Okay, that's the only words you Gordo, idiot. So, all right, then, AJU, you anorexic skiddy git. For God's sake, go out and have a good meal, will you? Before you fade away to nothing. I can see your bloody ribs. Your arse looks like a pair of razor blades framing a polo mint. Will you go and get a good meal before you die? Tiberius Kirk, nice vid, Ben, thanks. And nice hat. Oh, I haven't got my hat on today. And Jack Reaper also suggests I set up a Patreon account. Maybe I will do that now. Maybe that's right. Jack Reaper says, in my opinion, you're wrong about the flares of the Phoenix Lights. There's an overlay of the night and day shot of what is happening in this video. He points to me a video about this. To state my position, I'm intrigued by the UFO phenomenon. In my opinion, only a fool would say there isn't other life out there. I myself have seen a UFO, and I just can't explain it as in something unidentified. But in my humble opinion, the Phoenix Lights aren't a UFO, they're flares, or some other man-made thing disappearing behind a mountain range.
I'm not your enemy, far from it. I tend to look at things with a more sceptical mind. He uses sceptical with a K. You're more open to those things. I don't mean that as an insult. You're a credit to the community. I'd like to see myself as keeping a healthy dose of skeptic in me, if that makes any sense. You're the path forger, and I'm more the guy that's more temperate. Okay, well, thanks, Jack. Look, I don't have a problem with you disagreeing, okay? That's absolutely fine. I appreciate your contribution and your comments and the fact you like what I do. I really do. I don't mind if you don't agree. I don't agree. I do think there's something more to the Phoenix Lights than has been said, because the witnesses don't quite... I know there are people like James McGarr, as I said, who are saying it's lights, and he's a pilot. But there are lots of other people who disagree, and there's a lady called Lynn Keatai who's now campaigning about this. The fact that we had this confession from Fife Symington, and the word confession has never been attributed to him, but it should be, I think is reason enough to believe those witness statements. I think it's a corroboration of those witness statements. And Teresa Smith has put a very, very long article, a very long reply here. The Phoenix Lights contains 2 separate events in one day. Luckily for your cause, a particular event you negotiate is not the event that makes the point. That's right. I did watch your video. Jack, and I see what I didn't quite get it at the time, but I sort of understand what she's saying here. She's basically saying that these two correlations are not correct between the day and the night shots. Thank you for your skepticism, and she spells it with a C, which is correct. Here we go. This is what I run into on many occasions on this topic. I myself even had a moment of failure when I dismissed news last month about the crashed UFO in Canada because it was issued by Third Phase of the Moon. I obviously think strongly demanding of this ridiculous channel and its pitiful viewers. So I confidently refused any credibility to what it said. Turned out the theme's actually more to this news because the Canadian Air Force also stated a crash. Obviously they just said it was a military incident, therefore confirming an incident. Alright, so yeah, I made this point as well about Third Phase of the Moon. Okay, we just because I think they've actually not behaved too badly. I know they're not people I trust 100%, but I think they seem to have conducted themselves correctly in this case. And she says some more things directed at Jack, which I'm really between her and him. And Jack has got into a discussion with Teresa, which is really between them and her. Stephen Bamber, I'm sorry to learn you got chucked off CMR. Will Planet X Radio be coming back soon? Critical Mass Radio, yes, I was taken off Critical Mass Radio. The Critical Mass Radio has downsized now. There's only 3 hosts on there, and unfortunately mine had to go. But I have an independent platform now, and I'm still running on that okay. Planet X Radio is another station I broadcast a show on. I don't think that's ever coming back. I'm sorry, Stephen. I missed that show. I really enjoyed being a part of that outfit, and it was really, really good. I know it was controversial, but I never had a problem with any of the people on there. I don't go along with any of the various suspicions to do with that station. I had a great time on there. No one ever imposed any editorial policies on me I felt uncomfortable with. I love doing those shows. I did a number. They're still on YouTube. You can still get the Ben Emlyn Jones show on Planet X Radio. They're all on YouTube on the Planet X Live channel on YouTube. So check those out. Andy Young shared it. Thanks, Andy, and said, "Thanks for the updates, brother. Exciting times we're living in, indeed. Exciting times." That's a good title for a newspaper, I think. Cheers, Andy. Anthony Barrack, thanks for the share. Thank you, Ian Bennett. And Tinfoil Hat Lady says, nice one. Thanks, Tin. Tinfoil Hat Lady is a great YouTube user, and I really recommend her channel enormously. Anthony Barrett says, Hillary Clinton, global warming. Have you seen the recent vids of the Niagara Falls? It's frozen. Yes, I have, Anthony. Yeah, I mean, the Niagara Falls being frozen. Yeah, I mean, this global warming's terrible, isn't it? I thought it was going to dry up and turn into a desert. Catharism, great stuff. Thank you. Anthony Barrett also says, we don't need disclosure. I've had 31 UFO sightings in the last 2 years. I do believe these are falling angels from other worlds but dimensions. Not from other worlds but dimensional. Disclosure is for the evil satanic New World Order folks to bring in their Antichrist. Well, I
I think you're right about the other dimensional things, Anthony. I don't go along with this, the fact, I don't see this in a kind of religious, biblical way. I know some people do, and in Bryce Zabel and Richard Dolan's book, AD After Disclosure, they do raise the possibility of angels and demons being the source of UFOs, and I don't use that kind of language because I'm not a believer in those religious thought forms. But you know, we can't rule anything out. I mean, we could be dealing with some kind of negative conspiracy. I admit that, and you may be, even though I'd use language differently from yours, I do concede that you might have a point. And 7776 and he have a discussion. Adam, fantastical book reader. Interesting. I really find your videos educative per se. Thanks, Adam. Yeah, and I really. So those are the comments on that video. I'll probably make a follow-up comment to the video I'm doing now. So a follow-up video to the one I'm doing now. So any comments you leave in this video, I'll probably cover in future ones. So that's really good. Now, do remember,
I am appearing at the UFO Academy. Okay, I'll be speaking at the UFO Academy Watford on the 18th of April. This is part of their Into the Unknown event. Doors open at midday and tickets are £15 on the door. That sounds like a lot, but you get basically a whole afternoon and evening event for that. And you can email the address on their website if you want to reserve tickets. It's ufoacademy.com. Now, the venue is a lovely place. It's High Elms Manor, and it's beautiful Georgian stately home. Yeah, straight out of Brideshead Revisited. That kind of thing. It's surrounded by these beautiful fine gardens with lawns and fountains and this lush countryside around it and some woods at the back. Now, my lecture is going to be entitled The Nottinghamshire Roswell. Now, the Roswell incident is not the only one of its kind. In fact, events like it happen regularly all over the world. And in the UK, a strange occurrence took place in Nottinghamshire in November 1987. Could we be looking at the Nottinghamshire Roswell? Now, there are two other speakers. There's Philip Kinsella and Gary Hazeltine, and you'll know Gary Hazeltine probably because if you watch this programme, you'll know I write for UFO Truth magazine. Well, Gary is the editor for that magazine.
So, keep watching the skies, everybody. Thanks for watching. Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity, Stop the New World Order.